whether the team is performing clean or unsightly. We'll cover it all here on Washington Football Nightly. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So we've got co-lead stories tonight. As you see that I got on a little bit of black. We just won. It's Victory Monday. What are we doing here? I shouldn't be dressed in any kind of black, right? Wrong. Talked about yesterday being a costly win. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. But this was something that we couldn't have foreseen or foreshadowed. We didn't see this one coming. You know, this is Ron's plan. Ron's plan. We're not supposed to have these kinds of mishaps with Ron's guys that he brought from Carolina. But here we go. Here we find ourselves having a conversation about the DEA raiding the home and also searching the Washington football team facility in question of head athletic trainer Ryan Vermillion in regards to, now this is where things get a little murky. I've had someone ask me, hey, is this about some child pornography? You know, when you start having the alphabet boys get involved, it's some serious shit. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Now, I can't confirm nor deny anything, okay? I don't know what is going on. I put my ear to the streets. It sounds like this has something to do with his access to prescription medicine, pills, things of that nature. You know, they're cracking down on the opioids. There's an opioid crisis in America right now. And so that seems to be where this investigation is heading and why they're so interested in Ryan Vermillion. We don't know any of the details, any of the particulars, but this has been going on for months. Again, the alphabet boys don't just show up on a whim, okay? That means they've been tracking, documenting, and, you know, doing all of the research necessary to feel like they have probable cause to search your residence and search where you work, which is at Washington Football Team Park, whatever the hell they call it these days. Whatever the case may be, they've already spoken to players. I think this happened back in the spring. And there might have been an inkling that something like this could have occurred, but they kept it hush-hush. I will say, the only silver lining for me in all of this is that while all of this was taking place, we knew nothing about it. Had this been the last regime, there would have been leaks and there would have been stories that would have been written, and we would have known about this 6 months ago or whenever the hell they were questioning players and starting to probe into Ryan Vermillion and his lifestyle outside of football, maybe the two meshing together because he has access to prescription drugs. So I don't know if that is in fact what they're investigating or what they're looking for. That is my guess at this moment. I don't like to guess on situations like this. They're delicate. You like to kind of tippy-toe around some of these things because I don't like condemning people until we have all the facts. You know, we live in a society where they tell us it's innocent until proven guilty, but it's actually the other way around. Once you're perceived to have done something wrong, you're guilty until you prove your innocence. And even after you prove your innocence, a lot of times the damage has already been done. Ask Deshaun Watson. He'll never get that squeaky clean image back, no matter how this situation plays itself out. At the end of the day, this is non-football related, but when it comes to this organization, you can't just sweep this under the rug because we're the Washington football team. This is the type of shit that happens to us, okay? So even though the organization put out a statement that essentially said, hey, this is unrelated to the team, this guy is employed by your organization. So in effect, they searched the Washington football team facility. This is your problem. You want to make this a Ryan Vermillion problem. You hired him. He's employed by your organization. This is your problem. And it comes back to 20 years of Dan Snyder owning this organization and having shit like this happen. You take one step forward and there's always something around the corner that forces us to take 2 steps back. I'm not saying that's what this situation is. Because honestly, you know how I always tell you, I don't give a shit about this kind of stuff. I care about the product on the field. I don't want to talk too much about this, and I won't. But it's big news today because we just won a football game, and here we are leading off the show talking about something non-football related with this team and this organization again. And that's frustrating. Save these shenanigans for the offseason when there's nothing else to talk about, and we can spend a whole episode talking about that. We're talking about a game, a thrilling game at that. This was a really enjoyable football game to watch. We scored on 6 of 10, really 9 possessions in this football game. I want to talk about that, not our head athletic trainer potentially getting busted for, being a part of some prescription drug ring or whatever the hell he may be into outside of this. And, I'll just say this and then we'll move on. People are greedy. And I'm not saying that Ryan Vermillion is doing anything wrong here. But in general, people are greedy. They're never satisfied. They always want more. I used to go to a dental practice where they got caught up in a prescription drug ring. All right. One of the practice owners got caught up, and him and his wife were entangled in a prescription drug ring and mess. They were selling, they were overprescribing, they were using. It was a mess. Now, they own their own practice. I'm pretty sure they're making really good money. But when you own your own practice and you're making good money, you can always make more, right? Ryan Vermillion has been employed by the National Football League for almost 2 full decades. I'd like to think that he has been taken care of very handsomely over the last 2 decades. I hope he's not doing something on the side because the NFL check that he's being stroked on a weekly basis isn't enough. I hope that is in fact not the case. We'll see what happens. Let's move on to our other co-lead of the night. Yes, we're actually going to talk about football on the field. And yes, despite me wearing a form of black here, we did actually win a football game. It did come at a cost. We'll talk about that later. But the fact of the matter is we're 2-2, and I couldn't be more elated about it. Now, it was a hell of a football game. 34-30 win for the good guys. It was entertaining from start to finish. A bunch of lead changes throughout this game. And it had everything you could ask for. We had a special teams touchdown. We had some special teams gaffes. We had offensive flair and excitement and fireworks. We had defensive letdowns, defensive stops. We had pretty much the entire gamut of emotions and things that could happen in a football game happened in the game on Sunday. It was one of the more memorable games in recent memory. But then again, anytime Taylor Heinicke is on the field and we have a close game late, it seems to end in heroics for the good guys, which is a good thing. One of the knocks on the last guy that was here, Kirk Cousins, doesn't win in the big moments, can't get it done in the clutch. Well, Taylor Heinicke seems to be the opposite of that right now. We'll see if it continues, but let's get to the keys to the game as to how we were able to get to the 34-30 victory, see how they did with the keys to the game, and then we'll talk about some other things as well before we move on to our next segment. So, Washington offense versus the Atlanta Falcons defense. First key to the game was to start fast. No, they didn't do that. They didn't score on their opening possession. Atlanta did, but it was only a field goal, which is improvement. It's progress in the right direction, baby steps, okay? And we did get a first down, though. We did not go 3 and out. So that's progress, right? But not enough for me to give them any credit. It would have been nice to start a little bit faster than we did in this football game. we not only didn't score on our first possession, we didn't score on our second one either. We fell down 10-0 in this game before we finally woke up and started to move the football and put points on the scoreboard. So that would classify and qualify as the opposite of a fast start, to fall down 10-0 and to punt on your opening 2 possessions of the football game. So, no, they don't get any credit for that. But it is good to know, however, that even without a fast start, which we haven't been able to get off to this entire season, we've still managed to win 2 games and be in another game, and with a chance to win late. So that's great to know that we don't necessarily require a fast start to be in and win ball games, but that essentially is an old narrative that I'm sick and tired of discussing. I'd like to get off to faster starts and not have to dig ourselves up out of a 10 or 14 point hole or a 7-point hole every single week. 7 isn't bad, because I want to defer if we win the toss and get the ball after half. So if we're down 7-0 because the defense can't get a stop, that sucks. You'd like them to start faster, but I'm okay with that. It's the non-response from the offense that makes it worse. It's already bad enough we can't count on the defense to get a stop on the opening possession. It'd be nice if the offense could respond with a touchdown or a field goal, just something to say, hey, we can settle things down. Maybe the defense needs a little breather after giving up a drive or whatever the case may be, but we haven't been able to do that. Next key to the game for the offense: win on first and second downs. So essentially win on early downs. They did that in this game, so they get a check mark there. The Falcons had 16 third downs in the football game, converted on 10 of 16. Meanwhile, we only had 9 third downs in the game, which then prompted us to, we converted on 4, not a great clip, but we didn't have a lot of third downs, as I just mentioned, because why? We took care of business on first and second down, and I said it's not a crime to get a first down on first down. It's not a crime to get a first down on second down. You don't always have to wait to third down to get a first down in. We had some chunk plays in this game. So we took care of business on early downs in this football game, and it proved to be beneficial. Even the third downs that we didn't convert, we had 2 fourth down opportunities in this game and went 1 of 2 in that department. So I thought we took care of business on first and second down. That's going to be a key moving forward the remainder of the season, because we're not an efficient third down team right now. We're one of the worst, as a matter of fact. I didn't realize this, and I think I said this on Overtime last night. Coming into the week 4 contest versus the Falcons, we were dead last in third down conversions offensively at 32%. I didn't realize we were that bad. I knew we were bad. I didn't know we were that bad. So actually 4 of 9 is an improvement over what we've done to this point this season. It's not going to shoot that average up and that percentage up, but it's going to raise it. I mean, we almost went at a 50% clip in the game against the Falcons, and that's exponentially higher than what we had been converting at. Generally we've been at some 3 of 11 type nonsense, it seems like, on a weekly basis. So it was a far cry from that, but yeah, that's why I don't want to find ourselves in third down situations, because we're not great at converting on third downs. But we did win on first and second downs in the game, and that helped lead to the victory. At least one explosive play on offense. Said we had been lacking in that department this season, but we had at least one play of 30 yards or more in each of the first 3 contests heading into week 4 versus the Falcons, and I'd like to continue that trend. Well, we upped the ante a bit, as we had multiple plays that you would deem to be explosive in the game. Let's see. Terry had a 33-yard grab. J.D. McKissick's touchdown was of 30 yards. And we had several other completions that were 19-yard completions. DeAndre Carter had a 24-yard completion. Taylor Heineke had a 20-yard run. So we had some explosive plays in this game, and then obviously the kick return for the touchdown as well. So I thought there were some really big plays made, some big-time chunk plays. Both of Terry's touchdowns were over 20 yards. One was over 30 yards. So I thought that we did a lot of good things, and we had a ton of chunk plays throughout the football game. So for me, that is definitely a check mark for the offense. They were definitely explosive in this football game. It wasn't one of those situations where, we were constantly going on 12 and 13 play drives. We were eating up chunks of football field and moving it rather quickly when we did. And so I like to see that. Next key to the game: score touchdowns, not field goals. Execute in the red zone. I talked about us being really efficient coming into the game. We were 6 of 8 in the red zone heading into week 4, which is a 75% clip. We were 2 of 3 in this game in the red zone. So that's going to continue to add to what we've already done. That now makes us, 8 of 11 on the season. So again, right around 75%. We're continuing to get it done in the red zone. We scored 5 touchdowns in this football game. 4 touchdowns in this game. No, 5. I said it right the first time. We missed 2 extra points. We did not attempt a field goal, I don't believe, because you had 3 Taylor Heineke touchdowns, 2 to Terry, 1 to JD. You had the DeAndre Carter kickoff return for a touchdown, and Gibby had a rushing touchdown. So 5 touchdowns, no field goals. That's how you win football games. Plain and simple. That's how you win football games. In this league, we did kick a field goal. I take that back. We got all the way down. That was the really frustrating possession. That was the one possession in the red zone we did not score on. And we got all the way down inside the 5, down to about the 3-yard line, and couldn't get in the end zone. Thought it was some really poor play calling by Scott Turner on 2nd and 3rd down of that sequence there that led to the field goal attempt. And that was a chip shot field goal from about 20, maybe 21 yards out. So we did have 1 field goal in the game, but we scored 5 touchdowns, 1 field goal, and you're not supposed to end up with 34 points when you score 5 touchdowns. That's 35 right there. If you score every touchdown and tackle on every extra point, you're supposed to end up with 35 points just off of the strength of 5 touchdowns. But because we missed 2 extra points, then we had to go for 2. And we're terrible at 2-point conversions, and we missed that. You still kick a field goal, and you still have less points than you should have had if you just made every extra point after every touchdown scored, which is a problem in itself. So we should have had 38 points in this game, not 34, but it is what it is. We still ended up being victorious, and we scored touchdowns, and that's the difference. We scored 6 times. The Falcons scored 5 times, but the difference was we scored 5 touchdowns. They did not score 5 touchdowns. And that's why we won the football game. Protect the Duke was the final key offensively. No turnovers. As mighty as we tried, no turnovers in this game. Kudos to the offense for protecting the Duke. That's important. The first game this season offensively that we did not have a turnover. Golf clap for the offense. So they get a check mark there. And that's important. 1 turnover could have been the difference between winning and losing this game. It's a fine line in this league between winning and losing. And sometimes turning over the football is the thing that costs you games in this league. We didn't do that. That's part of the reason why we were able to come out victorious. So when you total up the offensive side, that's a 4 spot. That's a hell of a score. For the offense, let's see what the defense was able to do to add to the score overall. Defense, Washington defense versus Falcons offense. Start fast. I gave them half credit reluctantly, but they didn't give up a touchdown. I know the standards are rather low, but they didn't give up a touchdown. They gave up a field goal. If they give up a touchdown on the opening drive, we don't win the football game. So it's frustrating as giving up any points and still not being able to get a complete stop on the opening possession is. You take what you can get and you build off of that. We didn't give up a touchdown for the first time this season. I didn't want to be a part of a discussion in week 7 of a handful of teams this season that have given up an opening drive touchdown every game this season. I didn't want to be a part of that discussion. At some point, we need to shut the faucet off completely because we're still a part of a discussion right now of teams that have given up a score on every single opening possession this season defensively. I don't know if there are any other teams on that list besides us, but I know we are currently on that list as we've given up points on every opening possession this season, but this is the first time it hasn't been a touchdown. So that's progress. Not as much as I would like to see, but it's progress. So they get half of a check mark there. Get stops. Atlanta was averaging 16 points coming into this game. We gave up 30. And really, we gave up 30 in about 3.5 quarters. But I gave us a half of a check mark. And you're like, Louie, what are you talking about? We gave up 30. They scored on 50% of their possessions. They had 10 possessions. They scored on 5 of them. Correct. However, this is what a lot of you fail to realize. And you have to take into consideration. When we needed the defense the most, it was not pretty. And we may have had a little bit of help from the officials. We may have had a little bit of help from the Atlanta Falcons offensive coordinator. I will admit those things. But when we needed the defense the most, they came up with 3 critical stops in a row. Okay? I don't know if we've had a sequence this year, maybe the Chargers game in week 1. I don't know if we've had a sequence this season where the defense has been able to come up with 3 consecutive stops in a row. But they did it, and they did it at the most opportunistic time in this game. The most opportunistic time in this game. Without these stops, we lose this football game. Let's run down those stops real quick. Falcons take a 30-22 lead with about 14 minutes left in the fourth quarter. We need the offense to respond. They don't. They go 3 and out and punt. At that moment, if the Falcons score any more points at that juncture of the game, just a field goal, we lose. At that point, you'd be down 2 scores, and you'd probably have somewhere around, 8, maybe 7 minutes left in the ball game. You're not going to have enough time to get it twice. Also, need to stop them from getting any first downs and get it back so you can win the football game. You're really skating on thin ice at that point. If they put together a drive after we go 3 and out and give it back to them with about 12 minutes left, and they put together a 6-minute drive and they come away with a field goal or a touchdown, it's over. But you know what the defense did? They got a stop. They got the ball back to the offense again, and they said, hey, try that again. And they did, and this time they came up with a touchdown. We did not convert the 2-point conversion, so we're down 30-28. And the same thing applied to the last possession applies to this possession. Hey, defense, we need it back. If you give up anything here, if they move it down the field, they could run out the clock potentially. But even if they don't run out the clock, if they get a field goal and we need a touchdown, we could be in trouble. If they get a touchdown, the game is over. Tack on the extra point, it's a 9-point lead. We're done. You need it twice at that point. The defense got a stop. Got it back to the offense with roughly 7 minutes left or so, and we moved it down the field, and we got in the end zone, and we took the lead, 34-30. And then I was still nervous. I can't speak for you out there. I was still nervous because it was 33 seconds, and the Falcons had 2 timeouts, or 1 timeout, excuse me. And it's this defense. And on the very first offensive snap, they get about a 30-yard chunk to about midfield. And I'm saying, oh my God, what the hell is going to happen here? But they got the stop. It cost us Torrey McTyer, and I told you yesterday, he looked like he might be done for the season. He was clutching his knee, but I said, we got the stop. So 3 consecutive possessions when we had to have it, the defense rose to the occasion. Again, they had help. I never turned down help. If you're offering, I'm taking. The officials offered some help. They picked up a flag on Torrey McTyer on a third down. Easily could have been pass interference. Thank you. You owed us that much anyway at that point of the game. And the Falcons offensive coordinator decided to shut down Matt Ryan. And essentially, he tried to do something they had no success doing all day. And that's run the football. He wanted to run it on first down. Well, take this 3-yard loss. He wanted to run it on second down. Okay, take your 3 yards back. And now it's 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10. And then on third down, he wants to throw a screen. Ding! Thank you. Instead of dropping Matt Ryan back and letting him do what he had done all day, which is carve our ass up, he decided to throw a screen on 3rd and long. Thank you. I don't care how we get it. We got it. So I gave the defense credit for getting stops because at the most crucial and critical junctures of the game, they got stops. So half a check. Get to Matt Ryan or speed him up. Never happened. We got to Matt Ryan once. We did hit him. We did speed him up a couple of times, but for the most part, he was pretty comfortable. He delivered the football. He did what he wanted to do. So no credit there for the defense. I thought the rush was a lot better in this game. It was a lot more coordinated. And on the sack that Montez Sweat got, it was a collective effort rush, but it's still not dominant. It's still not instant wins. It's still not what we have come to expect, know, and love from this defensive line. So more work must be done. The next key defensively was slow down Patterson, Pitts, and Ridley. Didn't do that. I said, look, the Falcons don't have a lot of weapons. As a matter of fact, they only have 3. And I just named them for you. Cordero Patterson, and I said, look, he's been their best player this season on offense. So you should watch out for 84. You think? I guess they thought I was bullshitting. They're like, that's the same Cordero Patterson from Minnesota and Chicago and all these other places. Really? We should be worried about him? Yes. They had to find out the hard way. Calvin Ridley, 7 catches, 80 yards. Easily could have went over 100. Dropped a couple of other catches that would have put him comfortably over 100 yards. Caught a break. And then Kyle Pitts, what did he have? Like 5 catches. I think he had 5 catches for like 50 yards. So he had a solid day. At the end of the day, when you tally it all up, it was 16 catches for 212 yards and 3 touchdowns between 3 guys. I'd say we failed miserably at taking away the Falcons' 3 most productive players on offense. All 3 of those touchdowns came by Cordero Patterson. But Patterson had had 82 yards receiving. Ridley had 80 yards receiving, and Pitts had 50 yards receiving. They almost went over 300 by their damn self. So we didn't do what we needed to do, which was take away their best players. Finally, play as one unit and communicate. They got half a check. You could easily say, Louie, you tripping. They should get nothing here. You had another defensive breakdown in the secondary with Bobby McCain giving up a big touchdown to Cordero Patterson over the top. We had several third down conversions where we had PIs, things of that nature. But to me, the reason they got a check is because the run defense was so dominant in this game. And it put us in positions, even though we failed 10 out of 16 times, it put us in positions to get off the field on third downs. Because we were so dominant against the run, that helped us get the ball back late in the game. And we didn't give it up as easily. And it wasn't a ton of communication bust, although there was a big one. I just felt like it was simply Matt Ryan made some throws. A couple of those third down conversions. One time, John Bostic literally is diving. The ball just gets past him and gets to Kyle Pitts. And I'm wondering, how the hell did Pitts still catch that? With the guy's hand in your face going across, like, that's tremendous concentration. Hell of a throw. It's a gutsy throw by Matt Ryan, but he got it in there. Sometimes you just got to give it up to the offense. And he made like 2 or 3 of those types of throws where you're just like, damn, how the hell he get that shit in there? But all in all, I didn't think it was a terrible communication performance by the defense. I thought they played as one. I just thought one guy. And you hear people say that all the time, and it gets frustrating after a while hearing the same shit over and over again. But it's true. It's usually one guy. 10 guys do their job, and one guy gets a PI flag. 10 guys do their job, and Bobby McCain decides he wants to come down on a curl and let the deep post go back behind his head for a touchdown. Sometimes it's just one guy. So I thought they played as a unit for the most part. They communicated. The run defense was outstanding, and so they got a half of a check mark there. So all in all, the defense got 1.5. The offense got a 4. You total that up, 5.5 out of 10. I told you, if you do it correctly, you can win with a 5 plus. Really, the number that you're trying to get to is 7. But anything over 5, you got a shot. And especially if you don't turn it over, which we didn't, and you got help from special teams. Tried to piss it away on special teams too, but you know, the touchdown outweighs the 2 missed extra points. So those were the keys to the game. I thought they did some really good things, especially on the offensive side. Still a lot of work to be done on defense. That's an understatement, but a win's a win's a win in the National Football League. Let's get to in other news. And so we've talked about Ryan Vermillion and him going through some things. Right now he's on administrative leave. He didn't travel with the team to Atlanta, but that brings up a question of who's caring for the players right now? I mean, what are we doing? He was the guy that Ron would always reference in his pressers when he would sit down with the media. Hey, I haven't talked to Ryan yet. And so Ryan will update me on how everybody's doing. And I haven't done that yet because I don't want to tell you guys anything. Well, now Ryan's not here. So he says he's going to talk to the team doctors, and I guess they're going to be in control of that right now and relaying that information to Ron. And really probably Ryan Vermillion was more of a conduit. He was probably more of a middleman anyway. Team doctors tell him what he needs to know. He's a doctor himself, I would assume, so he's able to figure out what's going on, and then he relays the information to Ron. But nonetheless, I talked about yesterday immediately after the game. One of the first things that popped into my mind, one of the reasons I'm wearing black right now, is I said that win came at a cost. And it may ultimately be for the best, but you never want to see guys go down. And we had done such a great job of staying healthy these first 3 weeks, where the injury reaper made a visit to Atlanta, and man, did he ever take a chunk out of our roster all at once. Now, the severity of some of these injuries still has not been disclosed. Seems like we may have dodged a bullet on a couple of them, but the main ones right now that we know about, Torrey McTyer, torn ACL, done for the season. That sucks. He was a huge part of the win yesterday, even though I thought he easily could have been flagged for PI about 3 times. They picked up one of them, and that was a big break for us. But we needed him yesterday. You know, we didn't have Benjamin St. Juste. I think he'll be back this week, but again, it's a concussion. You just don't know how those things go. But we needed him because we didn't have Juice. You know, and now Darryl Roberts is going to have to step up. Whether Juice is back or not, Darryl Roberts is going to be active because Torrey McTyer was active every single week, and Darryl Roberts didn't have to be. Now he's going to have to be active. They may even have to bring another corner, you know, onto the practice squad if they don't already have a guy up there because, you know, now the depth is being tested of this football team. And then the other, you know, big injury sustained was John Bostic, torn pec, done for the season. A lot of you have been complaining about John Bostic, and I kept telling you guys, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. I wanted John Bostic out of the starting lineup. I did not want him incapable of playing a snap. I said I wanted him on the bench. I did not want him totally gone from the football team, essentially. And that's what effectively has happened, is now that he's gone for the season. This could be a blessing in disguise because I've wanted to see more Khaleke Hudson. And Ron says he's pretty much our strong side backer. That's going to move Jamin permanently to middle linebacker. Cole is going to play the weak side. And they're going to do some shuffling around at the linebacker position because Cole was pretty much your weak side backer, or excuse me, strong side backer, with Jamin playing weak and John Bostic playing middle when we would be in our base, which we're not in very often at all. But when we do go to our 3 linebacker sets, you're going to see a little bit more Khaleke Hudson, and we'll see how that works out. A lot of you have been wanting to see Khaleke Hudson. You wanted to see what this guy brings. I've wanted to see Khaleke Hudson. Now we're going to see him and a lot more of him. And hopefully we don't have any more injuries because, again, we didn't have depth to begin with. Now with Bostic going down, that depth is getting even thinner. And when I start hearing, yeah, we may have to play David Mayo, I get nervous, which is what Ron said today at his presser. We may have to start playing David Mayo. Ugh, that's nasty. So this is what y'all asked for. Okay, you about to get it. And I don't want to hear any complaints when you do. Okay? If David Mayo's in the game and he's getting smoked and cooked, I don't want to hear your mouth because this is what you wanted. You wanted John Bostic out of there. So be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. Then we had a bevy of other injuries. We haven't really had an update on a lot of those. We did hear about Sheriff. Apparently that's a sprained MCL. That's a 2 to 3 week injury minimum. We've been down this road with Brandon Sheriff before. So I'd like to think that he'll be back in 3 weeks. 2 weeks he'll be out. He'll miss the next 2 games. Be back that 3rd week. We'll see if they decide to put him on short-term IR or not. If they do, then that means he will miss a minimum of 3 games, which means he'll be eligible to come back for that Broncos game right before the bye week. My guess is that they don't put him on IR, but we'll see. It just depends on the severity of the injury and how they feel, and that's going to take time for them to be able to figure out, how long he's going to be out. So I think that's going to take a little bit of time before they make a decision on whether to put him on IR or not. We had a couple of hamstring injuries. De'Ami Brown sounds like he may have strained his hamstring. Same could be said with Cam Sims. Both of them sound like mild hamstring strains. However, a hamstring to a receiver is like a shoulder to a quarterback. Like you can't function without your hamstring being healthy. So, that's a little nerve-wracking. Same could be said for Logan Thomas. I thought it was his groin, the way he hobbled off in the area that it looked like he was kind of favoring. I thought it was his groin. It sounds like it's a hammy for him as well. But, again, we're still waiting on confirmation on the rest of these guys that sustained injuries in the game. But Sheriff is definitely an MCL. I think Logan Thomas is a hammy, as well as De'Ami and Cam Sims. So this game took a chunk out of our roster for sure. John Allen was able to return back to the game. Had a post-game presser, seemed to be fine. So I don't think he's anybody that we need to really be concerned with. Cole Holcomb left the game, came back in. Don't think he's the guy we need to be concerned with at this point. But, man, it was rough. Lost a lot of guys. 2 gone for the season. Still waiting on the reports of the others. So Sammy Reyes looks like he's going to get an opportunity to be active. I don't anticipate him playing a ton, because even when we had 3 tight ends active, with Logan Thomas being one of the 3, we really didn't see a whole hell of a lot of John Bates. When we went to 2 tight ends, it was Logan and it was, RSJ, Ricky Seals-Jones. But I imagine that when we go to, 2 tight end sets, that'll be the basis of what we do. And that'll be as far as we go in terms of the depth at tight end. I don't expect to see Sammy Reyes, up and actually getting a ton of reps on the offensive side, but he's going to have to contribute as a special teams player, more likely than not. So we'll see what happens with him. But Ron pretty much said he's going to get an opportunity. Remember, I talked about yesterday potentially them bringing back, Tamarick Hemingway, and maybe even making him active because he knows the playbook over Sam East to continue to let him develop. But sounds like he's going to get an opportunity to be active in Week 5 versus the Saints. So we'll see what that actually really means. But that depth that we talked about all offseason being tested, this is why you have all of these players that have positional flex. This is why you have all of these guys that you feel like can contribute, and there isn't that stark drop off that we've seen with this team in past years when we had to go to the bench. This is what all of that depth is supposed to be able to do, keep you afloat until your guys get back healthy. So we'll see what all of this means. We'll see, what some of these injuries turn out to be and how severe they are. Hopefully, we keep our fingers crossed and a lot of these reports come back as mild and that these guys will be back in 2 to 4 weeks. That's the hope. We'll see what happens. Finally, the NFC East. Let's talk about that real quick before we get out of here. So Dallas defeated the Carolina Panthers, who were previously unbeaten. They are unbeaten no more. The Cowboys really took it to the Carolina Panthers in that football game. At one point, the Cowboys were up 33 to 14. They were dominating. I think it might have even gotten as high as 36 to 14. They were dominating the Panthers. It was a back and forth game early, and then the Cowboys pulled away. Their cornerback, Trayvon Diggs, who is really morphing into one of the better corners in football, had 2 more interceptions in the game. I think he had already had like 2 or 3 going into the game. He had 2 more in that game. They also stopped the Panthers on 4th down a couple of times. They forced a fumble. That Dallas defense was really howling. The Panthers did get it to as low as a 1-score game late, but it was inconsequential at that point. Cowboys win 36 to 28. They remain atop the NFC East at 3-1. The Eagles were drubbed by the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes threw 5 touchdown passes. Tyreek Hill had 186 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns, which you can't do. You can't let Tyreek Hill kill you. If you got to pick your poison of the two, I'd rather let Travis Kelce go off for 11 catches and 130 yards because it's going to be less impactful than Tyreek Hill's 11 catches for, whatever yards and 3 touchdowns. It's just going to hurt you a lot more if Hill does it. But he absolutely shredded them. Mahomes settled down after a slow start in that game, and they scored 42 points, beat the Eagles. I think it ended up being 42 to 23 or 42 to 30. I don't remember the score. Let's look it up. That final score ended up being 42 to 30. Thought they got that last garbage time touchdown. So the Eagles are now 1-3 on the season. And then the Giants, surprisingly, go on the road and win. They were down in the 4th quarter, 21 to 10 at New Orleans. The Saints were playing their first home game of the season due to the hurricane. And I thought that they were going to come out with a ton of energy and they were going to really take it to the Giants. And actually, the Giants came out, played tremendous defense. They were up 6-0 early in the ball game. The Saints roared back, took the lead, and really from that point forward, they started to assert themselves. It's 21 to 10. I think it was 20. What was it? It was 24 to 13, I think. And the Giants ended up tying that game. Nope, it was 21 to 10. So I think the Giants jumped out to a 7-0 lead or something like that. Either way, they were down 11 in the 4th quarter. Let's take a look at that score. I know I ain't tripping. Giants, yeah, it was 7-0 Giants. And then the Saints rattled off 14 unanswered, took a 14-7 lead heading into, or a 14-10 lead heading into the 4th quarter. They scored another Taysom Hill touchdown. Taysom Hill had 2 ridiculous touchdown runs, the first of which was insane. And they took a 21-10 lead in the 4th. And the Giants rallied back, got a touchdown, got the 2-point conversion, got a field goal to send it to overtime, won the overtime toss, took it right down the field, and won the game. Saquon Barkley was outstanding, and so was John Ross. First game he's played after being activated off of IR, and he was fantastic for them. Had a deep touchdown grab, like a 56-yard touchdown. grab in the game. He was outstanding. Kadarius Toney got more opportunities. Remember, there were some big receivers out for the Giants. Sterling Shepard was out. Darius Slayton was out. So, obviously, John Ross and Kadarius Toney got more opportunities, and those guys took full advantage of those opportunities, and they go on the road to New Orleans and win 27-21 in overtime to get their first win of the season. They're now 1-3 as well. They've got the Cowboys next week in Big D. So no matter what happens there, someone in the division is going to lose. We prefer it to be Dallas, honestly, but we'll see what happens there. And obviously, we've got those same Saints coming up. So they're coming off of a loss. Every time they've lost this season, they've rebounded with a win. So hopefully that trend ends. And every time we've won a game, we've then lost. So something's got to give if we want to change that narrative, because we haven't won 2 straight and they haven't lost 2 straight. So if we want to change the narrative, then we're going to have to win and give them their 2nd straight loss. So we'll talk more about the Saints later on in the week. But that's a game that I feel like, just like this Falcons game, very winnable football game indeed. But we'll talk more about this Falcons game, get a little bit more in depth with it before we move on and turn our attention to the New Orleans Saints. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Washington Football Nightly. A very, very unusual, unique Victory Monday, if you will. But I'll take them any way I can get it. Even if some of the news that comes along with it isn't what we necessarily want to hear. We're 2-2. We're right in the thick of things, right where we need to be. And we got a chance to get over 500 for the first time this season on Sunday, back at home at FedEx against the New Orleans Saints. I really couldn't ask for anything much more than that. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, signing off. I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington football team. Until next time, you guys take care. See you next time.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap. Hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35. The 30.